Juan Vallejo Corona, also known as the Machete Murderer, was a notorious serial killer who brutally murdered 25 migrant farm workers in California in 1971. His heinous crimes, which involved mutilating and burying his victims in shallow graves, sent shockwaves through the community and garnered widespread media attention. Welcome to 10-Minute Murder, brief and bingeable true crime. I'm Joe, the host, and thank you for joining today. And as you can tell, I'm still sounding sick. I don't feel sick, which is weird when you feel fine, other than being a little stuffy. I feel fine, but I don't sound fine. So that's that weird world that I'm in right now. And a big thank you to everyone that reached out and checked on me just to make sure I was still alive and breathing. Yes, I am. It's only through one nostril, but I am breathing. And some of you, I assume, thought Joe is sick. He needs like some memes to cheer him up. I don't get depressed when I get sick, but I do appreciate the memes. And I got buried in an avalanche of memes. I'm talking about just regular old funny memes, of the ordinary variety, and then also true crime memes that I thought about posting. And I do that sometimes. Sometimes you guys send me true crime memes and I'll post those. Or if I come across one that I think is appropriate, I'll post it. But there was one in particular. I'm kind of embarrassed that I laughed about it. It's dark. I won't post it, but I will tell you what it is. It's Garth Brooks. You can tell that it's Garth Brooks by the way that it is. And then it's instead of Garth Brooks' head, it's got John Wayne Gacy wearing his full clown makeup. And it says at the bottom, "I've got friends in crawl spaces." Completely out of bounds. Before we get going with your story today, this is your reminder to subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Connect with 10-Minute Murder on social media. Links are in the show notes of this episode, as well as at 10minutemurder.com. Now to today's story. Juan Vallejo Corona was born in a rural area in the state of Jalisco, Mexico, on February 7th, 1934. Vallejo was one of two surnames, as is custom in Hispanic America, but he only used the one Corona. He was one of 10 children born to Sebastian and his second wife, Candida, which, by the way, I've taken a bunch of biology courses in my lifetime, and in microbiology, Candida is a fungus. In Spanish, I have no idea what it means. Anyway, fun fact. Corona also had 3 older half-siblings from Sebastian's previous marriage. The eldest was his half-brother, Natividad, who migrated to California in 1944, attracted by the jobs that were left vacant by the World War II draft. In 1950, when he was 16 years old, Corona dropped out of high school and illegally immigrated to California, where he worked on farms in the Imperial and Sacramento valleys. He also managed to attend night school to gain fluency in the English language. In May 1953, Corona settled into the Marysville, Yuba City metropolitan area, following Natividad's invitation. On October 24th, he married a Sacramento native, Gabriela Hermosillo, in Reno, Nevada, at the urging of her parents. And like most marriages where you feel like you're forced into it, it fell apart pretty quickly, after only just a few months. And you'll find out a little bit later that there could have been different reasons for that marriage falling apart as well. In late December 1955, a flood in the Yuba and Feathers rivers broke a levee and flooded much of the Sacramento Valley, including large sections of Yuba City and Marysville. The latter was declared lost at the time and evacuated completely. The flood killed a total of 38 people, many of whom were undocumented Mexican laborers forced to help in an effort to fix the levee. This event had a profound effect on Corona. He had always been afraid of water before this, and now it was worse. He suffered a mental breakdown, coming to believe that everyone died in the flood, and he was just seeing ghosts walking around. On January 17, 1956, Natividad had Corona committed to a mental hospital in Auburn, California, where he was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. After receiving 23 shock treatments in a period of 3 months, he was declared recovered and deported back to Mexico, but he later returned legally that same year. In 1959, Corona married a second time to Gloria Moreno, and had 4 daughters with her. At this time in his life, he had a violent temper, constantly felt the need to show off his masculinity, and well known as a homophobe, especially with openly gay men. If you were gay and he knew it, he was going to let you know how he felt about it. In 1962, he became a licensed laborer contractor and hired workers to staff local fruit ranches. In March 1970, Corona had a new schizophrenic episode and was briefly institutionalized again. On May 25th, a young Mexican man named Jose Rea was found injured in the restroom of Natividad's Guadalajara Cafe. Jose had been attacked in the face and head with a machete, nearly scalped, prompting Natividad to call the police. Though he had not actually seen his attacker, Corona was considered a suspect because he was at the cafe at the time. Jose filed a lawsuit against Natividad and won $250,000. Rather than paying, Natividad sold all of his properties in California and moved himself back to Mexico. On May 19, 1971, Japanese-American farmer named Goro Kazuhiro found a large, freshly dug hole in the Sutter County peach orchard that he owned. Kazuhiro asked his employees, all hired through Corona's connections, about the hole, but they knew nothing of it. At night, Kazuhiro returned to the orchard and found the hole filled in. He called the sheriff, who dug up the hole and found the body of a drifter named Kenneth Whiteacre. Though Whiteacre was dressed, the deputies found gay literature in his pockets, and the murder was classified as a sex crime. However, the coroner did not look for signs of sexual assault and only performed a superficial examination. On May 24th, workers driving a tractor in an adjoining ranch spotted another freshly filled-in hole. They also alerted the sheriff, who dug up yet another male body, and in doing that, found another place where the earth had been moved. This contained a third body and a couple of Yuba City Market meat tickets signed by Corona on May 21st. All 3 victims were drifters and farm workers who had been hacked and stabbed in the same manner, and a pickup truck resembling one belonging to Corona had been seen in that area at the time of the murders. Because the sheriff's office was reluctant to make an arrest before the real number of victims was known, they continued to search the area for graves. They found 6 more corpses in the same orchard, most of them hacked and stabbed, and 1 was shot. Many were buried with their pants down or with no pants on at all. Like the others, they were drifters and farm workers, and many were seen asking Corona for work or riding his pickup truck. On May 26th, deputies arrested Corona and searched his home, office, and car. Among the evidence found was an 18-inch machete, a blood-stained club, knives, a pistol, and ammunition, along with digging material and other similar meat tickets, and a blue ledger with the names of 34 men and dates. Bloodstains were found when they searched inside Corona's vehicle. As a result, the sheriff ordered aircraft to take infrared photos of the area and locate more graves. By June 4th, the day of the search's conclusion, the number of known victims was 25. This was twice the body count of the Boston Strangler, the most prolific known American serial killer up to that point. Though 1,500 people contacted authorities to report missing relatives who could be one of the victims, 4 bodies were never identified. Corona was initially provided with a public defender, Roy Vanden Heuvel, who hired several psychiatrists to evaluate his mental state. However, on June 14th, Vanden Heuvel was replaced by Richard Hawk, a private attorney who took up the case in exchange for exclusive literary and dramatic rights to Corona's life story and the legal proceedings. Hawk decided not to plead innocence by reason of insanity. He fired the psychiatrists, made no mention of Corona's schizophrenia, and called no witnesses. The proceedings were delayed twice, once because of Corona being hospitalized after suffering 2 consecutive heart attacks, and another because of the abolition of the death penalty in California, which took place while the trial was underway. Finally, Corona was found guilty on all charges on January 18, 1973, and sentenced to 25 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. However, further changes in the criminal legislation of California allowed him to get a parole hearing after 7 years. In 1974, Corona's wife divorced him. And in 1978, Corona's first attorney was ruled incompetent, and he was granted a retrial. His new attorney, Terrence Hallinan, called 50 witnesses and attributed the murders to his brother, Natividad, who had earlier died in Mexico City in 1973. Citing Jose's 1970 lawsuit, Hallinan claimed that Natividad was a violent homosexual. However, it was Corona who admitted to being a closeted homosexual and had one homosexual encounter in Mexico before he immigrated to the United States. This time on trial, the main witness for the prosecution was a Mexican consulate employee who met Corona in jail in 1978 while he was preparing for his appeal. According to him, Corona admitted to the killings, stating in Spanish, "Yes, I did it, but I am a sick man, and a sick man can't be judged by the same standards as other men." Hallinan countered this, claiming that Corona had not actually said, "Yes, I did it," but a hypothetical, "if I did it." After 7 months, the jury found Corona guilty on all counts again and dismissed Natividad's involvement, arguing that the defense did not prove he was in California at the time of most of the murders. Shortly after, Corona was stabbed in the face by other inmates and lost all sight in his right eye. He was serving his sentence in Cochran State Prison. During this last parole hearing in November 2016, he admitted to killing some of the victims before a Californian court for the first time, but claimed that they were all trespassers. Juan Corona died on March 4, 2019, from natural causes at the age of 85.